Hello guys, we're waiting on Sam Woodworth to join to talk foam rolling today. So I'll give it just a moment here. We've got quite a bit of topics to cover. He's got a book out called Foam Rolling, and I think he just joined. Hi Sam, how are you doing?
Luke, what's going on, man? How are you?
Pretty good. How's everything
Good.
going?
Everything's going well. Just had some clients this morning and came home. I'm working virtually for the rest of the day. So happy to be here.
Awesome. I guess we'll first start with, can you tell us a little bit about Woodworth Wellness and what you do, and just a little bit about your business to start?
Yeah. So I'm certified as an exercise physiologist, but I've been personal training for over 10 years. Graduated from Ball State with a degree in exercise science. I've been in the Indianapolis area for 10 years and I've been doing it, loving helping as many people as possible, spreading evidence-based practice and science and research. And that's kind of the gist of it.
Yeah, for sure. So a little bit about, for the people that are just joining, if you ask a question, and we'll get to it at some point, but main topic is going to be foam rolling, because you do have a book out titled Foam Rolling, and we'll talk a little bit about that, getting into it. But so if you ever have questions, we're going to be giving away 3 foam rollers and a free or a complimentary consultation with Sam at the end here. First question is, what are the main benefits of consistent foam rolling?
So foam rolling has been something that's kind of been popular for, I'd say we were doing it maybe 10, 15 years ago, and then it's got this resurgence in popularity since kind of the topic du jour right now is recovery, and especially for athletes, not just the weekend warriors, but elite athletes. So basically the thought is that foam rolling can acutely increase range of motion. It's kind of superior to traditional static stretch, especially prior to exercise. It can actually help with post-exercise recovery. Now, as time moves forward, like most things, as the data comes out, we can fine-tune our understanding of foam rolling. And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of huge studies, and it's really hard to do a double-blind, peer-reviewed study on foam rolling, because it's hard to kind of have a control and a non-control, or someone who's rolling themselves with one thing and not another. So there's not really the perfect science experiment that exists to measure the benefits, but there is some evidence suggesting that you can get an acute increase in range of motion in the joints that you roll around, and it also can potentially help reduce soreness post-exercise.
Okay, so when you talk about post-exercise, a lot of us are trained to static stretch after exercise now. Are you introducing the foam rolling right after exercise before static stretching, or are you substituting it for static stretching?
So that's a great question, because a lot of times when someone asks me, is something good for you, I always ask, instead of what? Or, is it replacing something that could be better, or is it replacing nothing? In that case, maybe there's an added benefit. So generally speaking, we like to roll prior to exercise, in addition to some dynamic stretching, just kind of multi-joint, system-based kind of mobility exercises. And then at the end of exercise, we do more of a static stretch, kind of a traditional kind of, isolated, muscle by muscle static stretch. That tends to give us the best bang for our buck. I don't recommend people do static stretching, especially like the long 60 seconds plus hamstring or quad stretch that everyone has been so accustomed to doing before exercise. I don't really recommend that prior to exercise. Definitely would say foam rolling, but really just get out and move more. That's kind of what it comes down to, is just move.
Right,
It's pretty simple, really. Yeah. Foam rolling is kind of this, it doesn't need to be as complicated as a lot of these devices that I see, whether it's like the the hypervolt, some of these rollers that have like vibration, and some of them are cold and some of them have heat, and it's almost like too much,
We have
we're kind of missing
those here.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. It's all good. And I just don't want to, from a scientific background, I don't want to recommend something just on the thought that if some is good, more is better kind of a philosophy. That's not always the case. So,
Okay. Yeah. So if time wasn't a constraint, and I know it is, but could this be a progression like foam rolling, dynamic stretching beforehand, exercise, foam rolling, static stretching, or would you even replace the dynamic work before with just foam rolling?
Yeah, if time wasn't an issue, which for most people time is an issue, so this is kind of hypothetical, like you said,
Yeah.
I would say foam roll, dynamic stretching, so like thinking like leg swings, high knee runs,
A skips, B skips. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of stuff. Exercise, and then like a static stretch or more of like a cool down post exercise. Now, with recovery, like rolling a sore muscle, there is some preliminary evidence suggesting that like rolling a sore muscle may help reduce the feeling of soreness, which then may increase the quality of your subsequent exercise. Okay. So yeah, kind of a wishy-washy answer, but that's kind of how science is sometimes,
Okay. Yeah. And for those that just joined, if you have any questions, feel free to post in the comments and we'll get to it, and then you'll be entered in a chance to win a foam roller. The next question I have is, we kind of answered how often we should foam roll or when we should, but for runners specifically, since that's kind of our target demographic, what areas should we target? What areas should we not target?
Okay. So I kind of have like a basic, kind of a routine. I'll always start with some kind of a ball or something on the bottom of the foot. So I'm a big proponent of barefoot exercise and barefoot stimulation. So it always starts with the foot. So if you have some kind of a device, whether it's a lacrosse ball, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got one in your hands. That's something you could use too. What is that?
It's an R3 roller. So
okay.
It gets the different parts of the arch. So I just like it because
Awesome.
it stays, it sticks. But yeah, so kind of
Bingo.
where to hit it.
Exactly. That's awesome. I like that. I haven't seen that before. That's pretty cool. So I would say recommend that first. And then work your way up, kind of like thinking calf, so gastrocnemius, soleus, and then if you want to hit your perineals, kind of the outside of the lower leg, it's really up to you. That one's a tough one to get to with a roller. It can be done. It's just a little more hard or challenging to maneuver yourself. And then working your way up, thinking hamstring, inner thigh, so working your adductor group. Then definitely quads, which is always kind of the most painful one, especially that rectus femoris. And then as you get up into the TFL, so this brings me to a really one of the most common questions I've been asked is the IT band, and that's one of those ones that runners, everybody, for some reason, like way back when rolling was first introduced, everyone kind of got obsessed with this thought of rolling the IT band. Well, the IT band isn't a muscle, so we shouldn't really treat it as such. Right. You're kind of subjecting yourself to unnecessary discomfort and pain, which can actually increase, sympathetic nervous system arousal. You're kind of bringing up that fight or flight, cortisol release. And so that's the last thing you really need before you begin your workout. So I recommend, instead of rolling the IT band, is rolling the TFL, which is the tensor fascia lata. It's just above that and just kind of in front of that. So think about it. It's like where the hip meets, or the leg meets the hip, a little bit on the side and to the front. So it's a really small groove kind of between your femur and your hip, a little pocket about this big. Obviously, it depends on how big you are.
Right.
So that's a good spot to hit instead of the IT band. So, and then you want to roll your gluteal group ideally. And then anything on top of that for a runner is going to be bonus points, but those are your priorities. So if you can maybe hit your thoracic spine to help with, thoracic spine extension to help ensure your posture is a little taller, that's great. But really those are the big ones, lower body.
Okay. So that's a pretty good point on the IT band, because I know that there's a lot of misconceptions about that. Two questions. with runners specifically. I know there's some recommendations sometimes to foam roll like gently your shins if you have shin splints or the outside part. What's your thoughts on that? And then the next one you can kind of touch on both is lower back pain for runners. How do you effectively do that?
Okay, so kind of a lot to unpack there. The first part, with the shin splints, shin splints are an interesting thing. A lot of times people kind of think it's muscular, but a lot of times it's actually happening within the tibia, and it has to do with vibration and our inability to dampen the vibrations entering our body. So the analogy I use is like a fork. So imagine like a tuning fork. If you hit it on the table, let me ask you, if you hit the tuning fork on the table, how do you get it to stop vibrating?
You take it off. Or wait, no, a tuning fork. Oh my gosh. I don't know.
When you get it to stop vibrating, you pinch it, right? To get it just kind of vibrating, and you pinch it, right?
Yeah.
So basically, what happens with a shin splint, and one of the ways that that kind of pain can arise, is your body doesn't do a great job of dampening the vibration entering the body. So what happens is that delay, your body kind of takes in more vibration than it can actually help dampen. And then that tends to create trauma kind of in the connective tissue with the muscles entering the tibia, and then eventually can work its way into something more problematic like a stress fracture or something. So that's way down the road. But to answer your question, you can roll your anterior tibialis, which, for runners, hopefully everyone's familiar with that one. It's basically you find that ridge of the tibia, it's really prominent. You just lateral to that ridge, right? So that's your anterior tibialis. You can roll that. It's hard to get with a roller, but if you have you can even massage it with yourself. I'll actually use like the device you have in your hands, kind of like take the tension off of that muscle, and just kind of some light massage to it would be fine. The big thing with all rolling is you want to make sure the muscle that you're targeting is relaxed. Okay. The comparison I always give to somebody is, when's the last time anyone got a nice, relaxing like neck rub when they were sitting in their chair like this, So the muscles need to be relaxed for you to be able to penetrate and actually have an effect. So when you're rolling, take the tension off the muscles that you're targeting. Okay. So that's an important thing. And then as far as the back pain, there's a lot going on with causes of back pain for runners. A lot of it is because most runners, and I just put that in quotations because people will tend to, kind of define themselves as a runner. And I hope that their exercise doesn't stop there. Okay. It should also include strength training and, other, whether it's biking, swimming, things that are non-impact that can still exercise the heart. But the low back pain is going to be more attributed to how well your hips function and how much mobility you have in your thoracic spine. Okay. So lumbar spine is thick. They're thick blocks. They're meant to shock absorb and support. They're not meant to bend or twist. Okay. So ideally you get the bending and twisting from your hips and your thoracic spine. Lumbar stays solid. So you can roll the muscles around it, thinking glutes, thoracic spine, inner thighs, again, quads, but you never want to roll your low back kind of right on that lumbar. You always want to stay above it.
Okay. Awesome. With that, one last question on the shins. You said the vibrations. Is that due to, is surface, whether it's asphalt, concrete, as opposed to trail and grass, are there less vibrations on softer surfaces? Is that why people suggest that kind of surface? Or can you talk a little bit about running?
Yeah. So, and this would be, I'm not strapped for time, but if you got to go, we can always condense it. So don't worry about running over. But I will go. Yeah. So
right now,
with vibrations, it's pretty cool. So you have an accumulation of mechanoreceptors in the bottom of your foot, kind of in your skin. So your skin has the skin on the bottom of your feet, same skin that's in your hands. Okay. So you're talking about things that deal with light touch, deep touch, vibration, skin stretch. Okay. So basically you're taking in information from the outside world. Okay. So let's say you're running on asphalt or concrete. There's very little feedback that the concrete and asphalt gives back to your body. It takes it all in. Okay. So there's no real there's no real vibration or texture difference to interpret from your foot. That's why I do like to kind of switch it up with training services. But people sometimes when they switch between a treadmill, this is really common in like spring when someone goes from running on treadmill to going outside, is the treadmill has some give. Like the treadmill deck, it gives vibrations back to you. You can actually tell how hard you're landing based on audible cues and how much the deck kind of gives on you. And then you take and you kind of fine tune your vibration receptors for running on a treadmill. When you take that outside and you're in an environment that doesn't give you any feedback, and that's really hard. And so what happens is people will then buy thicker soled shoes like a Hoka or some of these really thick block shoes that I don't necessarily love. They actually do more harm than good in my professional opinion. They actually they basically put a blindfold over your mechanoreceptors in your foot. So they actually decrease the amount of stimulus entering your body. So then the muscles then acting on that foot aren't really doing the best job they can. So that's why I always encourage low profile, minimal. I like the on clouds. They're not as much lift. So basically just spending some time barefoot in addition to running is as a nice kind of compliment.
Yeah, for sure. And then foam rolling in general, you have that book out called Foam Rolling. Can you tell us a little bit about what it all covers, and then where can we find it? Where can we buy it?
Okay. So foam rolling, pretty unique title. No, and this is my wife on the cover, Nikki. So that's kind of cool. Keeping it in the family. So I will say, Foam Rolling, the book, is an exhaustive manual. So it's like full color. I mean, you got like almost too much information, really. So it's one of those things where you just want to put as much in there as possible and give as many ways to use a roller as possible. That was released kind of in the spring of 2016. So 4 years of research and data since then has kind of led me to kind of walk back a little bit on the relative importance of foam rolling. I do think it's important. I do think it's better than other things in certain circumstances. I wouldn't say it's like the end all be all or like the magic pill kind of. It's not as awesome, I think, and beneficial as everyone touts it to be, myself included, which this is a big moment for me to kind of come out in an audience and basically admit to you guys that, we weren't as right as we thought we were. There's some benefit, but maybe it's not as heavy as we thought it was. Okay. So that being said, it's still better than nothing. And it's a nice way for people to kind of give themselves like a self massage. They can do it in the comfort of their own home. They can do it at work. So as far as the book goes, honestly, it was set to sell for $19.95, but you can find it on Amazon for much cheaper. Full transparency, I don't get any royalties from purchases of the book. So if you did want to find a way to support me, I would love an opportunity to work with anybody in the audience right now or anybody watching this after the fact. So I am local. I do house calls, virtual training. I train out of a semi-private studio on the north side called Fitness Clinic of Indy. And so that's kind of my own book pitch, which is not much of a pitch, but I just wanted to be transparent.
Well, I did buy it, by the way, so it's on its way.
Cool. Well, I'll drop off a couple more copies if you guys have any interest. Okay, but you can get it on Amazon for like $12.
For sure. And then, do you have anything else that you'd like to discuss before we go? Thanks for joining us.
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me. This is great. I just really, I hope everyone's out there doing something. Something's better than nothing. I really try and apply a public health perspective of harm reduction to exercise and foam rolling or stretching. It's basically just move more. Okay. So foam rolling, if you got one at home and it's the easiest way for you to roll and just lie on the ground and move around a little bit, and that was going to replace a half hour of sitting on the couch watching TV, then do it. But if foam rolling is replacing going out for a long walk around the neighborhood, interacting with friends, socially distanced, of course, I would recommend rolling instead of that, right? It should always be in addition to, okay?
Awesome. Thank you. Just a little bit of heads up for the people that are still on. CCA Jackrabbit Run Club is Monday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. and then Saturday at 8 a.m. Sam, I would love to have you for an outdoor clinic if that's something that you're interested in, post exercise, if that's something that you'd be wanting to do in the future. But thanks for joining us, and a lot of great knowledge, and I'll post it up on the Instagram post as well. So
awesome. Yeah, I'll be happy to join you guys. That'd be great. I love working with runners because I feel like there's a lot. You guys have the desire and the drive. You're already running miles and miles and miles. Let's just be a little more tactful and kind of put some more exercises in there with it to make sure you don't hurt yourself over the long run.
For sure. Thank you so much, Sam. Have a good day.
You got it. Have a good one. See ya.